Hey, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our MC, Mike Becker, and he will get us started.
Good morning. I am Mike Becker. I'm the chair of Always United, and I want to welcome you to this webcast on decluttering, which is as I'm finding, is getting to be a more and more important topic. This is a first of a two-part series, again, on a very important topic, and we're very pleased that Always United is getting the chance to partner with the Senior Academy of IUPUI on this webcast. A couple words, brief words about Always United. We're a part of the United Way of Central Indiana, and we're focused on providing a couple things. First of all, services and webcasts and seminars for individuals on topics such as maximizing Social Securities, avoiding the pitfalls of Medicare, how to protect your assets, and topics on things like that. We're also very focused on helping people volunteering. Our North Star is really helping our community, especially as it relates to basic needs and for those who are really suffering it in terms of food and shelter and this sort of thing. So we are very focused on providing volunteer opportunities for individuals, and especially for those individuals who might be retired who are seeking some opportunities. So look, and you'll hear a lot more from us about that. A couple things. First of all, some logistical points. Please use please give us a lot of feedback. Let's have a lot of interaction. Use the chat feature, and I will be moderating the webcast, and I'll be looking at the chat at the questions that come in on the chat feature, and we'll be passing those on as well, and hopefully we'll do a good job of getting those answered. The second thing is that for those people who have signed up, if I remember correctly, what will happen is you will automatically receive a link to a recording of this seminar. That's a common question as to whether there will be a link or there will be a recording, and there will be, and you will actually receive a link to that. I believe that's still correct. So those are the logistics. I'm very pleased to introduce our speaker. Jonna Kripe is a partner in Harmony Senior Relocation Services. And this business really helps people organize and help organize and declutter their homes. Obviously, it has to help with in the process as one that starts to downsize. But it's interesting, as I'm learning, it's also an important aspect with respect to safety in the house. And so that makes this even an important topic. And for those who would choose to and want to live in place, obviously, and age in place, this is an important topic with respect to safety and this sort of thing. So I've had the opportunity to interact and speak with Jonna, and she's got an absolutely lot of great stories, and you are in for a treat. Jonna, I'm handing it off to you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, everyone. As Mike said, my name is Jonna, and I own Harmony Senior Relocation Services. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for your interest in the topic. And let's just jump in and talk about right-sizing your stuff. So what we want to cover today is, I'm just going to go through 6 key points, and then we'll get into the details. But this session is going to help you to understand the emotional aspects of decluttering and why it's so difficult. We're going to talk about, as Mike mentioned, kind of the safety and just some of the calming and positive benefits of decluttering. Importantly, how to create a plan for sorting. How do you get started, and how do you keep going? How to declutter when your spouse isn't willing or able. A lot of us are married to people are on the opposite end of the continuum with us. So if they're more of a collector, as we like to kindly say, and you're more of a minimalist, how can you get started when they're not ready? Deciding what to sell, what to donate, what to discard, or what to give to your family. How to think about that and make some of those decisions. And then lastly, just some ideas and resources for professionals that can help you to move forward and kind of help ease the burden and give you some resources for who can help.
John, I'll have to confess here with one line item there. My wife, I'm a keeper, and my wife is more of a pitcher. And my wife, when she heard that I was moderating a seminar, a webcast on decluttering, after she just died laughing and rolled her eyes. So that So that stress is in the Becker household. So you're spot on. And one of the things that's important to us.
Well, she can call me anytime she may need to vent a bit. So let's start with this first point, the emotional aspects of decluttering and why is it so difficult? And it's difficult for everybody in all ages. We're just kind of in a society where all of us really have too much stuff. We're in a very blessed and abundant society. And why is it so difficult to get a hold of our stuff and to think about decluttering? I focus in my business primarily working with seniors. So that may or may not be you. It may be your parents who are seniors that need to think about decluttering. And you may be running into kind of those emotional barriers with your parents, which can be particularly sensitive. So here's what some of my senior clients have told me. And let's just kind of talk about that a little bit. By far, the number one thing that I hear from my clients when they're talking about right sizing and decluttering is they are just overwhelmed by the idea. In fact, my father-in-law and my in-laws, when they downsized, that's actually how I got into this business, because I ended up helping them and decided that it was fun for me. But my father-in-law, they lived in a 4-bedroom house in Carmel. They had a basement. They had a 2-car garage, actually 2.5-car garage. Of which they could only park 1 car and barely open the door. They had a lot of stuff. And he said, you know, it just feels like this big amoeba. He goes, it's big and I can't get my hands around it. And why even start? I just don't know where to get started. So overwhelm is a very common feeling that keeps people from even getting started. Once people kind of start the process, whether it's triggered by a downsizing move, or maybe it's kind of a health crisis or something. Once they get into it, then they're stressed because it's going to get worse before it gets better. You end up making a bigger mess before it actually looks better and you can breathe a little. Clients also tell me that it's sad, like they get kind of emotional about it. You're going through a lot of old memories. You're going through, if you've lived in your home for 40, 50 years, you're going through a lifetime of accumulations. We're kind of an accumulating society, and it can be sad to have to kind of think about what to let go of. And I'm not just talking about sentimental things. I was actually helping a client just this week. They happened to be moving and downsizing, and I was going through their kitchen, and they were elderly. It was no fault of their own, but they had so much food that was expired in their pantry, in their freezer. And it actually made me sad just thinking about the money that had been wasted because it just kind of got in the back of their freezer and they just never saw it again. So it's not just sad from an emotional standpoint of sentimental things, but it can just be sad to let go of stuff that you've spent your good hard money for, and now you're having to let it go or throw it away. Uncertainty is another emotion that I see from clients. Just uncertainty about where and how do I get rid of this stuff? Where can I take it? Who will accept it? Who can I trust if I'm trying to sell it? There's just a lot of uncertainty about getting rid of things and right sizing. And then lastly, it's just a sense of dread. I tell you, it is a big job to right size and start decluttering, and people just tend to dread it because, let's face it, we'd much prefer to spend time with our family, go out to dinner, go to the movies, do something, anything, but have our head back in the back of our closet, pulling out shoes that we haven't worn in 5 or 6 years. So there is a sense of dread. It's not particularly fun. So let's move on, because there are some positive benefits. And positive things to think about when you do decide to declutter or right size wherever you are, if you're staying in place but just want to get a handle on your things, or if possibly it's your parents or you who are thinking about moving to a smaller home. There are some benefits. One, trust me, you are going to feel so much lighter and freer once you are able to let go of things. Once you can step back and look at a closet that you know what's in there, it's only the stuff you're using now and you're wearing now, you can see it, you are going to feel lighter and freer. Your kitchen is going to be easier to work in and to get around in. And you are going to feel better. You're going to feel worse before you get better, but you will feel better. Your home, or possibly your parents' home, will be safer. And as all of us, age, I see it with my dad and his wife, and eventually I will get there myself. Either needing to use a walker at some point, or if you happen to have a fall and you're having to get around your house in a scooter or a wheelchair, even if it's just temporarily, having a home that is not so full with furniture, not so full with baskets here and little end tables there and things in the corner and closets that are hard to open and shut because there's furniture in the way. Your home will be safer and easier to maneuver. And lastly, key benefit is you're going to be doing your kids a huge favor. They are going to appreciate that you've taken control of your stuff, because believe me, they've got their own stuff and their closets are full and they're busy, and they're going to appreciate that you've taken care of this and you are not leaving this burden and responsibility to them. Because at some point, even if we're all young now, when we reach our 80s, God willing, or 90s, you're not going to be able to do it then. And to be able to take care of it now and start early is going to be a big favor to your kids. Let me pause there and just see if there are any questions on these first 2 points, or anything Mike would like to add.
No, we do hear a lot of stories and see some stories. I remember an article in the Wall Street Journal, in terms of dealing with the kids, where people were actually in the middle of the night taking some of these items that the parents viewed of value and leaving it on the porch of their kids in the middle of the night. And it does. I think doing this and coordinating with the families and the kids is really is important. It obviously can reduce stress and determine what we think might be valuable may not be as valuable to them. So that's a good lesson there.
Actually, that's an interesting point that you bring up, Mike, and I'll touch on it a little bit later. But yeah, you can't rely on your kids to come and get the stuff that they want. Like, there may really be some stuff that they would like to have, but I hear it from my clients all the time. I can't get them to come over and get it. I wish they would come and get it. Literally, you may have to sneak it in the middle of the night and just set it on their front porch. So, well, let's move on to some of the other topics. So how do you create a plan for sorting? This goes back to some of the emotions that I had mentioned earlier, of it feeling overwhelming, of getting kind of in the middle of it, or even just getting started with it and all of a sudden going, oh my goodness, I am so stressed. I've got this room totally torn apart. So I have some ideas for how to start sorting, and just do it, just jump in. But here's some ideas that might help. So first thing is start small. As I said earlier, the thing that was kind of paralyzing my in-laws is they were looking at the whole house, and it just felt so overwhelming that anywhere they started just didn't seem that it would have an impact, and they just couldn't get their head around it. But starting small is exactly where you need to start. And it may just be start with your junk drawer. You know, junk drawers by nature are junk drawers. It should be easy. All you probably need to keep out of there is some scissors, some staplers, Post-it notes, and the rest of it is junk. So start small. Start with your hall closet, not your big walk-in closet in your master bedroom. That's for another day. But start just with your hall closet, something that's small and contained. Because even a hall closet, particularly if you've lived in your home for 20, 30 years, there's more stuff in that hall closet than you remember. And sometimes we look at it and go, oh, this area won't take me very long, but it will. So start small. You might start, the example I'd given earlier, just start in your freezer, start in your pantry, just to get rid of things. Don't say, oh, I'm going to get my office cleaned up. I'm going to get this paperwork under control. Paperwork is tedious. It's time consuming. It gets very overwhelming very fast. Don't start in your office. Don't start with paperwork. Bookcases are a good place to start small. You might even start with one shelf, because books can be a difficult thing to let go of. Start with one shelf. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of help you bring down the focus of starting small. Start with the easy stuff. So here's another way to think about it. And this kind of relates to starting small, but it's a different mindset. Start with just your shoes. Just say, you know what, Saturday, I'm just going to go through all my shoes. We're coming up, hopefully, at the end of winter here. What shoes and boots did you not wear this year? Just go through, just focus on your shoes. Just focus on winter coats. Just kind of think of a category and start with something that's going to be very easy and manageable. Other easy stuff is kind of low-hanging fruit is go through all in your kitchen. Just focus on Tupperware and butter tubs. Go through, throw out anything. My dad and I just did this over Christmas. We pulled out all the Tupperware. We found which ones had tops and bottoms that matched, and we got rid of everything else. So just start with easy stuff. Here's another way to think about getting started, another mindset. Start in an area that's less used. So what I mean by that, although I just gave the example of the kitchen, but don't start in your kitchen and start pulling out all the pots and pans and all the food and everything, because the kitchen is central to your home. Don't start in your living room or your den, your family room, your office, the areas that you spend all your time. Rather, start in areas of the house where, like I said, it's going to get messy before it gets better. So start in those less used areas. Start in the guest room closet upstairs, where you can pull things out and you have a place to work, but it's not going to interrupt your daily life. We've had a few nice spring feeling days. Start in maybe a shelving unit in your garage, something where it's not going to interfere with everything in your daily life. Start, if you have a basement, start in your basement. Start small in your basement. So just focus on one corner or just focus in one area, but start in your basement where you're not spending a lot of time down there. You can kind of make a mess. You can make some piles, but before you start messing up the rest of your house. So here's some no-brainer areas for getting started. You know, downsizing or right-sizing, it's kind of like building a muscle. So sometimes I tell people, just start with the stuff that's a no-brainer. You know, don't start with sentimental items of China. Don't start with photo albums of family vacations. Don't start there. That requires a lot of discernment and it's going to bring up emotions. Start with things that are no-brainers. Just walk around your house and look in your closets. Anything that's broken, you know what? If you haven't fixed it by now, you're probably not going to fix it. Just get rid of it. When you're going through your closets, anything that's got stains or rips, just go ahead and get rid of that stuff. You're not going to wear it. We only need so many yard working outfits. And that's not things that you can give to Goodwill anyway. So anything with stains, that goes with upholstery too. If you've got ottomans with rips or chairs with stains, just go ahead and throw those things out. That's easy to do. Anything that's out of date, and that could range from expired food, focus on things under your bathroom sink. Just pull the stuff out that's out of date, things that you're not using. Let's face it, you know, clothes that are out of date, we're just not going to wear them anymore. So just think in the mindset of, I'm just going to walk around my house and just look for stuff that's out of date. If it's the wrong size, sometimes we just have to face reality, and we're not ever going to fit in those size 6 pants again. Just go ahead and get rid of it. It's a no-brainer. And dust. You may be thinking, what on earth is she talking about with dust? But I tell you, I see this all the time. If you go in your closet and you have shoes that are on the floor or on a shelf upstairs, and they have dust all over the toes, you have not worn those shoes in a really long time. If you have pants that are hanging in your closet, you know, the way they drape over, if that little hanger is where the pants are is full of dust, you have not worn those pants in a very long time. And I see it all the time. If it's got dust on it, just get rid of it. If you've got silk flower arrangements that are in the tops of your cabinets or in bookcases and they're kind of dusty and whatever, those are easy, no-brainer things to get rid of, because it's not going to be worth the time to try to wash them or brush them off. You can't really dust it. Just get rid of that stuff. So get started with things that are no-brainers. That'll be an easy win.
So John, a question as cropped up, which is I think probably relevant to many of us, and that is the fact that it's in some cases maybe the challenge is not so much in things, but more in just paper. You know, we get inundated with tons and tons of mail and paper, and you get stacks and stacks of it. Some of it's important, some of it's not so important, and it can be intimidating. How do you tackle that, because of the fear that you know you're going to get rid of something important? You know, it's the whole concept of just a lot of paper. How do you attack that?
Well, a couple of things. One, when I get my mail, I stand by my trash can and sort my mail, or my trash and my recycle are kind of right there together in the kitchen. So one, I immediately recycle any junk mail, any newspaper flyers. That just immediately goes away. Other type of paper, one, you do need to check with your accountant or financial advisor on how far back you need to go with things. But places like Quick Shred or Office Depot, that is a good place to go for items that need to be shredded. They will even, I know quick shred, you can actually arrange for a big plastic tote. It looks like it's on wheels. They will actually bring it to your house and you can keep it for a couple of days and put all of your shredded items that need to be shredded there. And then they will come back and pick it up so that you are not having to lug it in your car somewhere. I will say, things like, I mean, these are just things that I've seen people kind of collect over time that you just, it's paperwork, but it tends to get collected, is just like cards that people have sent us. I had one gentleman in particular, he had bundles of Christmas cards with rubber bands that he had collected every year, going back for years and years. But you're just going to have to like let go of that stuff. It is hard to go through paperwork, and that's why I tell people, don't start with paperwork, start with the easy stuff. Does that answer the question?
That's good advice. And I think the other lesson I think that you gave us, to do a really good job of at least going forward, of triaging all of that when it comes in, and be quick to pitch it and get it into the major stacks and do some triaging up front. But that's quite frankly quite a good comment and a good question. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So let's kind of talk about sentimental stuff and kind of making a plan for that. And this really comes around mindset. And first, I will acknowledge I have sentimental things. I have things from my grandmother, from my great aunts, and I am not in any way suggesting that anybody get rid of truly sentimental things that mean a lot to you. In fact, those are absolutely the things that we should be keeping, because we want to have our home and the environment in our home. We want to be surrounded by the things we love. We want to be surrounded by the memories of people in our family. So when I talk about sentimental stuff, I am not talking about that kind of stuff. I'm talking about what we attribute to be sentimental when really it probably isn't. Let me give you some examples. Well, actually, let me kind of back up too. When you think about sentimental stuff, it's easy, particularly I think for women, and when we have collected china or dishes or things like that from our mothers or a great aunt or things like that. One thing with regard to sentimental things, just to give you a different mindset of how to think about it, you don't have to keep everything, like every piece of china. You can keep one plate. This is going to throw some people off, but you can keep one plate, cup, and saucer. You don't have to keep the 12-place setting. Keep one and display that one set in, I call it a place of honor in your home, rather than keeping it in a box with the 12-place setting in your basement because, well, you don't want to get rid of it. It was your grandmother's. I totally get that. But pull out one place setting, put that in, displayed in a place of honor in your home, and get rid of the rest. Other things to think about is, what is the characteristic of your grandfather that means the most to you, or that they embodied in you, or that you relate to them? It may not be his collection of stamps or coins, but for me, it was a little nailing hammer. My grandfather was a carpenter, and I have the hammer he used. My brother has his level. But that's all. That's all I need to kind of remind me of who he was, my memories about him, of working in his garage at the back of the, I'm going to get teared up. But you don't have to keep all of their stuff. Just keep one or two sentimental things that remind you of the character of who they were. Another point is your stuff versus your kids' stuff. I run into this a lot with my clients, particularly when they're still living in the home that they raised their kids in. They may, if they don't still have the bedroom itself with all the stuff in it, but they will still have, and I am not kidding you, this was my experience just this week, their trophies. They're trophies from Little League. They're ribbons from stuff they did in high school. If your kids, as they're adults now, don't want that stuff, you don't need to keep it. You don't need to be the storage unit for their high school stuff. And back to the point that Mike made earlier, either ask them if they want it. And if they do, you may have to give them a deadline to come over and get it by such and such. Or, you know, what is it that you want? Is it your yearbooks? Fine, I'm going to bring them over. Like Mike said, leave it on the porch in the middle of the night. But if they don't want that stuff, you have permission to get rid of it. And the other thing to consider too with your kids, and this kind of links back to the sentimental stuff, is your memories of your grandmother or memories of your parents, maybe some of the dishes that you have, your memories and your sentimental value isn't necessarily their memories and their sentimental value. So if you can separate what is sentimental for you versus trying to pass that on forward, that might not be the thing that is sentimental in their mind. It may be something completely different. So your memories are not their memories. And sometimes that's a mindset that kind of helps people break open to be able to get rid of things that they were hoping their kids would want. And the last point here on getting started is start now. Start now. It's going to take you more time than you realize. People always underestimate, even just looking at a hall closet. It's like, oh, I'll knock this out, in 30, 45 minutes. Well, 2 hours later, you're still pulling stuff out and sorting through stuff, and you got to get it in the car to get it to Goodwill. And it's like, oh my goodness, I have been in this closet for 3 hours and I'm still not done. It's going to take you longer than you think. And there will be a time where, whether it's you or your parents, where there may be a health incident, there may be a fall, time creeps by, and it's not going to go anywhere unless you get started and just start now.
So John, that's all of that's so helpful, and I'm starting to get a bit of a plan kind of coming together. Do you see very many people just basically because you're tackling like this and kind of following your thoughts and starting small, saying I'm going to take a room every 6 months and kind of scheduling it out or whatever, and say I'm going to tackle, or at one a quarter, and then just trying to say, okay, every 3 months or every 6 months I'm going to take a room and then divide it into small pieces. And you see people trying to do it that way because it is intimidating.
It is. Yeah, it kind of goes back to, how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. And for some brain profiles, being able to schedule something, kind of like, okay, once a month, I'm going to, 1 month, I'm going to do this. Next month, I'm going to focus on this. Next month, I'm going to do that. That works really well. For other people, it might be more of, I'm going to make a list of my categories: shoes, kitchen Tupperware, my winter clothes, particularly when you're coming out of a season or out of a holiday. For example, my mother-in-law has holiday stuff for every holiday. Easter, St. Patrick's Day, of course, the big ones. But after every holiday, when you've pulled that stuff out and decorated, before you put it back in the bin, sort through and get rid of things. So whether it's a calendar orientation or more of a category orientation, think about what works for your brain profile. Think about how you organize yourself at work, or how you organize yourself on projects at work, and implement those same types of strategies for your house.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, so here's one of the things that Mike shared earlier is, you know, how do you declutter when your spouse isn't willing or ready? And, you know, you can still get started. It doesn't have to be a side-by-side thing. So you can get started in your stuff. You can get started in your closet, you know, leave their stuff alone. You get started in your closet. This also goes back to one of the points that I mentioned earlier about, you know, go through your clothes. If you didn't wear it this past winter, you know, the season is changing. If you didn't wear it this past winter, you're probably not going to wear it next winter because it's going to be another year older then. As you transition into the spring, just focus on your spring clothes. You know, what do I think I'll be wearing this spring versus, you know, that's been hanging in there for 5 years and I didn't wear it last year and I know I'm not going to wear it this year. Just bite the bullet and get rid of it. Here's a tip that a friend of mine gave me. This was actually several years ago, but I still use it to this day. Try something on if you're debating about whether or not to get rid of it, because it can be hard to let go of stuff, particularly when it's still good quality, but maybe it's kind of out of date. Try it on, stand in front of the mirror and say, how do I feel wearing this? So one, how do you feel physically? Is it, oh yes, I forgot, this has that scratchy neck. I never did like this because of this scratchy neck. Out of here. Is it too tight? Is there just something about it that's just kind of binding or uncomfortable, or the sleeves are too long? Like physically, how do you feel in it? But then here's the other thing to think about. How do you feel in it? When you put that on, do you feel like you'll look your best? Do you feel confident? Do you feel, here's a good one, ladies. If you were out and about and ran into your high school or college boyfriend, how would you feel wearing that outfit? So think about things like that, and it kind of helps you to break out of the mindset of, well, maybe I'll wear it one day. Well, it's still good. I ought to wear it. I should wear it. But for whatever reason, we don't. So think about, ask yourself some of those questions and go ahead and get started in your closet.
So John, I know of someone who actually says, well, this style will come back eventually.
It will, but it'll come back different. It'll come back, but it'll look different. So just go ahead and let it go. You've worn it. You've probably gotten your money's worth out of it. Just go ahead and let it go. And you know what? I'll say this to men and women. You only need so many pairs of black pants. You know, I have gone through closets and they will have 20, 25 pairs of black pants. And I'm like, I know you can't be wearing all these. Either they don't fit or I don't know why you need that many pair of black pants. So just be realistic. Here's another area, just as an idea. Different couples have different zones in the house. You can go ahead and get started, and I'm just using the kitchen as an example, but if the kitchen is your zone, go ahead and start decluttering the kitchen. If the laundry room is your zone, go ahead and start decluttering the laundry. If the yard tools is your thing, go ahead and get rid of those broken, rusted yard tools that just get in your way and fall on top of your head when you're trying to get to the tool you really need. So there are zones in your house where you can go ahead and get started. Same thing with like an office or a craft room. This is not where to start, because offices and crafts rooms are going to require some really well-developed decluttering muscle. So don't start there. But once you get your muscle developed, you've got some momentum, you're going, you can kind of start with your own crafts or in your own office. Moving on to another topic. Deciding what to sell, what to donate, what to discard, or to give to family. I can't tell you what items to get rid of, but I do have some hard realities to share with you in this regard that might give you a different mindset for how to think about these things. So one, what to give to family. Well, first, they really don't want your stuff. They don't want your furniture. They probably even a lot of the sentimental things, and I say this with the caveat that I shared earlier, there's probably a lot of sentimental things that you think they might want that they don't want, because it doesn't hold the same memory for them as it does for you. But they don't want your furniture. They don't want your extra kitchen appliances. Go look at their house. Their closets are full. They need to right size. So don't expect that your kids are going to take a lot of your stuff, because they're just not. Talk to them, ask them, you know, I'm going to spend the next 6 months. I'm doing some right sizing, some downsizing. Is there anything in particular that either you'd like to have now, or when I do need to move to a smaller place, or God forbid, when I pass away, you know, that you would like to have, and go ahead and, you know, start making that list. But they're not going to want a lot of stuff. So that's the hard reality. What to sell? Again, only you can decide about that. And at the next presentation, Jack Christie is going to be a great resource for giving you ideas on what sells, what doesn't sell, what to expect from things. But I will say, one, give serious consideration if you're thinking about having a yard sale. Really think about that, because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work gathering everything. It's a lot of work putting little price tags on everything. It's a lot of work setting it all out on Thursday night before Friday morning. You're going to spend all day Friday, all day Saturday, and then you're still going to have to get rid of the stuff that's left. And let me tell you, people that shop at yard sales, they want to buy things on the cheap. So you're not going to make a lot of money. And I say this from experience, because about 5 years ago, my husband, he has an office in a duplex here in Broad Ripple, and he had been in that office for about 20 years. So he had a lot of what we thought was really good stuff to sell, just all kinds of stuff. And his office was always the place where he and his business partners, instead of really decluttering, they would go, oh, well, we'll just take it to the office. We'll just put it in the office there. So we had a lot of stuff. Anyway, my point is, we were going to have this big yard sale. We were going to yak it up. We were going to, you know, go on a cruise. Well, by the time we got done, and I calculated the hours that we had invested and the money we made $4.13 an hour. So bear that in mind when you think about kind of what to sell or how to sell it. And the other reality is too, when you're selling with, you know, whether it's through like Christie's auction or a consignment store or anything like that, where there's a middleman, you know, they're going to take a percentage. And the marketplace is such now with just, it's just saturated with used furniture and stuff. It's not going to go for a lot of money. Now, if you've got artwork and expensive things, I'm not talking about that stuff, but it is hard to sell stuff. So set your expectations in reality. What to donate. My guidance here, again, I can't tell you what to donate, but I can give you a mindset here. One, if you wouldn't walk over to your neighbor's house and say, hey, neighbor, would you like to have this? Is this something that you could use? Don't think a charity wants it. They won't take anything that is, you know, broken or stained, clothes that are out of date, anything with missing pieces, anything that's just caked in dust and dirt. Like, just, if you wouldn't give it to your neighbor, don't try to pass it off on charity. That's my last point. What to discard. That's probably going to be your biggest pile. You just got to give yourself permission to say, you know what? I've used it. I've gotten the value out of it that I used it for. It no longer has a purpose for me. I really don't see anybody else wanting to use it. You just need to discard it. So that's the hard reality on that.
So, Jonna, this might be an interesting time, because you've triggered a lot of thoughts from my standpoint, and I, to everybody that's in the call with us, get a hold, take a look at your chat feature, and put in the chat feature. Would be interesting for people to share. What do you think, and what do you see as some of the most difficult things that you're going to have to deal with in terms of decluttering? And I'll pass those on to you as they come in. But, you know, as an example, I'm thinking of my grandmother's old furniture, and my goodness, you know, it's such a sentimental value to me, but I don't think the kids care. And this, you know, it's my great grandmother's furniture. The second one I'll put in is all my dad's tools, his work, you know, and I am not handy. You raise an interesting point. Maybe you just keep a couple and you find a way, and we'll deal with the subject of what do you do with it in terms of when Jack comes on in a week. But so from everybody, what are some of the things that you have the most angst and concern about that you would share with the group and with Jonna is what you're dealing with? And I'll start sharing some of those with you as you go ahead, and Jonna, go ahead and to your next slide, and I'll start sharing some of those with you. I'm assuming we'll probably have a couple good laughs out of it too.
Yes, and actually this will be a good list, Mike, for you to jot down, because Jack Christie will be able to give some good advice and ideas on maybe some of these more difficult things. So the last area here is there are people, professionals, resources who focus in certain areas that can help you to move forward in a number of different ways. So whether it's auctions, like a Christie's auction, who you'll be hearing from next week, whether it's consignment stores, those are a little hard to come by these days. That's a difficult business. But you can consider consigning things. I will tell you though, they only take, you know, trendy, up-to-date stuff. So you have to, and you gotta, if you don't have a pickup truck, you gotta get it there somehow. So unless you've got a friend or family with a pickup truck, going to consignment is a lot of times kind of cost prohibitive, because by the time you pay somebody to pick it up and take it, you're probably losing money on the deal. There are a lot of charities that will come and do free pickups. You do need to schedule those well in advance, 2 or 3 weeks out. You can't declutter on a Saturday and expect them to come on Monday. But they will do pickups, but they will be kind of picky about what they take. There are, obviously professional organizers that can help you get started. And my industry as a senior move manager, we help in all ranges of right sizing and downsizing, from planning it, purging, packing, placing, all of that. We can kind of help you get a handle on how to get started. So with that, I will toss it back over to Mike's questions. What are some of the things that people typed in on their chat?
I'll read through some of them, and boy, they do hit home. First of all, books is very common, and I'm sitting here in my den looking at a ton of books, and that's been a source of discussion in our family. But books is one. China, which you referred to, and kitchen gadgets. That's a very, very interesting point. And there's been a couple people have also talked, and again, this one hits home as well. Photo albums, just years of photo albums. Boy, that's a tough one.
Yeah. Oh, I've moved lots of photo albums. So let me start with the books. So a couple of things to think about with books. One is there is an auction house that sometimes will deal with books, but they're only dealing with like first edition, pristine, like collector books, not the books that the average Joe has. But there is a resource out of this Wycliffe auction. But books, one, just think about books as you're just right sizing, trying to give yourself permission to get rid of things. One is, okay, if you've read it, people, I think, often keep books. It's kind of like a trophy. Like, hey, I read this. Look what I did. I invested my time in this book. But when it comes to right sizing and downsizing, you've got to think, okay, I've read it. I know the ending. I'm not going to read it again. It's time to get rid of it. Or I bought this book 5 years ago. I've never read it. And you know what? If I collected a stack of all the books I've bought that I've never read, I'm never going to get to them. So sometimes it's just coming with the hard reality of, I probably shouldn't have bought that. Or you're just going to have to get rid of it. Now, the Indianapolis Public Library has a great resource for getting rid of books. Their main campus, it's not the library, it's central services, but it's connected to the library. It's a part of the library system. Central services on Meridian, they have this awesome drive up garage door, like 6 garage doors. They'll come out with bins, you give them your books, and they have a quarterly book sale that they use to raise funds for the library. So that is a great place. I have taken literally pickup truck full of books for clients, and you just drive right up. They help you unload it and you drive right off. So it's a great service. Photos are really hard. There are services, if you've got photos that are loose that you can have digitized, it can get expensive. And this is an area where I say, this is not starting small, so don't start with this, but you could go through and, back in the day when we were, getting the little packets of photos at, Walmart or Kodak, you know, we would take 3 pictures of the same thing. You know, you could go through and just say, you know what, I'm going to pull out 4 or 5 pictures of this particular vacation, and I'm just going to have to throw the rest away. And let's face it, how often do we really go back and look through all those photos? Pull out some subsets of the photos. That's a really hard one, though. You're really going to have to work on your decluttering muscle before you tackle photos.
So one possibility would be to go through and just pull out selected pictures, and obviously not everything, and digitizing a much smaller amount, perhaps.
Yeah, yeah. And then China, that's a difficult one. But places like Christie's auction, they will sell China and tchotchkes and things like that. That's probably, other than just, you know, giving it away, that's probably what I would suggest to people for something like sets of China, is that, along with a bunch of other stuff, is just auctions can sell that kind of stuff.
You know, Jonna, there's another one that has come up, as somebody pointed out, and it's cut glass bowls, very beautiful and historical, but they're worthless now. I mean, how many of us have something that is just really, really neat, means a lot to us? They're beautiful, they're historical, but they're just not worth anything now. That's a tough one.
Those are hard. That is hard. I run across that with Hummels, other things. Oh my goodness, I had a lady that had an entire room full of just Beanie Babies, you know, things that we've collected when in the heyday they were very popular, but now they just have no value. You know, I tell you, and this isn't just related to this particular question, but just overall, the most difficult thing that my clients have seen and that they encounter with getting with stuff that they need to get rid of, whatever it is changing your mindset, giving yourself permission, letting go of the guilt, and just say, I don't need it anymore. I don't use it anymore. I don't want it anymore. Never should have bought it in the first place anymore. Just changing your mindset. We are, all of our lives, all of us, as you grow and age, we're all in the mindset of, you know, accumulating things. And, you know, it's just easier to kind of accumulate than to let go. But there's a point in our life where we just have to change our mindset and give ourselves permission and not feel guilty about saying, I don't need this anymore. Yes, I paid good money for it, but I got the value out of it that I needed when I bought it. I don't need it anymore. I don't use it anymore. I just need to get rid of it, because the benefits that we talked about earlier of feeling lighter and freer and having a safer home, having just this peace of mind, there are huge benefits to just getting that weight, like physical and emotional weight, off your shoulders.
So there's also somebody also made a comment about all of these things that are on the wall, these pictures, you know, some of which are, you know, important to me. Some of them are also signed and numbered, maybe have some value. And boy, I suspect virtually everybody on the call has that issue coming up of all of those pictures on the wall. Oh my gosh, what do you do?
That'll be a good question for Jack Christie, particularly if it's like signed and numbered. But pictures on the wall, I'm assuming you're talking about like maybe family photos and things like that. A lot of times I'll suggest just take them out of the frames, but keep the picture. Either take them out of the frames or if it's just like artwork, something that you bought at the mall, just kind of decorative stuff, you know, you just got to think, do I still want it? Do I need it? Has my style changed? And if so, just take it down and get rid of it.
And somebody also made a comment, and this will be a tough one too, toys and classic toys that have been collected over the years. There's probably a lot of sentiment with those as well. Kind of the same advice.
Yeah, those are the things. The classic toys, again, that's something that Jack Christie can speak to. But other toys, you know, again, ask your kids if it were your kids' toys. You know, are there any of these that mean something to you or that would be fun for you to pass along to your kids? Chances are they're going to say, nah. And, you know, you just need to, if you do pass along toys, do make sure that, you know, they're clean. But those are things that just probably need to be discarded because they're, you know, kind of broken or worn out or missing a wheel or whatever, or just donated to a charity if they're still in good shape.
Very good. Any other questions in the chat feature that anybody would like to bring up for John? This has been so helpful. Any others that have come up? I think we're getting ready to wrap. John, thank you so much. Thank you so much. This is really, really hard. So I appreciate your comments and your frank comments about, you know, at some point in time, one has to let go. But just remember, my theory is as soon as I get rid of something, then the next day I need it. That's always one of my big fears. But thank you so much for your presentation.
Here's my motto. It's the counter of your motto, kind of. When you know, you're going through stuff, it's like, should I keep this? Should I let it go? My motto is, when in doubt, throw it out. There you go. Good advice. You've helped me a lot, and I'm sure you've helped others an awful lot as well. Thank you so much for your time and presentation and your examples. I do want to mention to everybody before we sign off here is that we do have another session on March 10th that John has referred to a number of times, and I think that'll be very, very helpful too. So now, once you get over the hump and you start to process, and you've got a whole bunch of things that you're getting ready to perhaps get rid of, what's the best way? Are some of these of value? How do you go about getting them appraised? How do you maximize the value out of these things? Again, you know, a little bit more information on the pros and cons of selling those yourself. There's a lot of discussion about where do you donate? What are some good places there's some better places than others perhaps to actually to donate, and that you'll feel better about. And you know, and then get some tips on what organizations, again, might be really good in terms of, again, donating, maximizing value. And I think Jack will do just a wonderful job with this. So with that, remember that you will be receiving a link to a recording. I think we're adjourned. Thank you so much for joining us. Jonna, thank you so much. And absolutely have a great day, and start that plan that I think maybe I'm finally going to sit down and tackle. Thank you.